Hollywood, The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson. This is Doc Severinsen along with Tommy Newsom and the NBC Orchestra, inviting you to join Johnny and his guests, Tony Randall, Buddy Rich, Kelly Monteith, and Thomas Thompson. And now, here's Johnny.
Look what the Santa Ana winds blew in. That applause is nice. It lasts longer than sex, and it feels better. That's right. You sound in a good mood now. We had a rough audience last night, I really mean. You know you're in trouble when during the monologue, a nun throws a rope over the boom mic and says, "String him up." That's right. Ed is back in New York. He's gonna tie askew, and he's gonna, I guess, do the parade tomorrow, is he not?
Maybe.
Thanksgiving Day parade, and that means the Doc moves over here, and Mr. Charisma. I've never seen you wear that kind of a coat.
I've never worn one of these coats.
That's why I've never seen it. What is that?
I don't know. It's stiff, tell you the truth.
I'm serious. Is that wool?
I think it's ultra suede.
Ultra suede.
Well, as opposed to suede.
Ah, yeah. Isn't that what they make chamois out of? You look like a big sham. No, that's very expensive. Ultra suede. Do you know that? That's not
so.
That's so, yeah. That's not mimeograph. That's high-class stuff. That's very nice, Tom.
Thank you.
You look good. It's hard to believe Tommy's a musician. He's a great musician and writes great arrangements, but he doesn't look like, you know what? He's not too hip. One of the guys in the band asked him if he wanted a roach holder. And Tommy said, "No, I use a roach motel in my kitchen." I hate to kid Tommy because he had a tragic childhood. It's true. When he was a little teeny boy, his mother told him never to eat candy unless it was offered to him by a stranger. Kind of tough to do the monologues during the past few days because I'm really not supposed to talk about the situation in Iran, and I understand that, and not supposed to discuss the Chrysler situation. We've been a little rough on Chrysler, and I don't want to do any jokes about Chappaquiddick. Did you folks hear about the Watergate break-in? I could talk about that, but it would be wrong. I mentioned Ed being back there. It is tomorrow's the big thing. That's national. They televise that out here. Sponsored by Macy's, the annual Thanksgiving Day parade. And in California, we don't have anything quite that big. We do have the Zodies. The Zodies Thanksgiving Day parade, but Zodies is not as big as Macy's, let's be honest. And so they can't afford those lavish floats. So what they do, Bertha, they're the head cashier. Big Bertha takes off her girdle, and she just kind of waddles down Lancashire holding a Snoopy balloon. But it's not a bad parade. It's not... How many of you really get sentimental this time of year? I do. You know, tomorrow... Yeah, holidays like tomorrow, my thoughts drift back to when I was growing up in the plains of Nebraska. Yeah. Now, during the Depression, you remember the Depression? Oh, yeah. My folks were kind of poor, and on Thanksgiving, how poor were they? I want to tell you about that, Thank you, sir. We couldn't afford a turkey, I remember. And one night, I remember my mother went down to the pet hospital and adopted a chicken with a goiter condition. It was, Then I remember another year, my mother, if you lived back there, told me to go into the barn and slaughter the turkey. And I didn't have the courage to do it. So what I did, I handed the turkey a gun with a single bullet. And he turned it on me and took my watch. Folks, I'm talking, we were really poor, but I remember one Thanksgiving, Mom brought home a big tom for broiling. And you know, with a lot of gravy on it, a cat doesn't taste all that bad. Folks, I'm telling you. Oh, yeah, you're right. I broke the rule. 3 jokes about the same subject. All right, let's go to politics. That's pretty funny. Yeah, it's going to be a good year for material. Former President Gerald Ford, as you may have noticed, keeps making speeches attacking the Carter administration and the policies. Now, even though Ford has not announced, he's announced that he is not running, right? Somehow his name keeps, you get the feeling he's still available? See, Gerald Ford has a peculiar problem. Ford's the only presidential candidate who peaked without ever running. But, no, I think Jerry's leaving the door open in case his party wants him in 19. I like Gerald Ford. He's a good man. You got to think, he brought the nation together, if you remember, when he was appointed president after Nixon resigned. And 2 years later, he brought the country together again when he ran for president and nobody wanted him. So, got to admire him for that. Jerry Brown is our governor. Now, see, Jerry is out campaigning. And he's trying to get into the debate back in Iowa, which is, I understand so far that Senator Kennedy is going to debate President Carter there, and Jerry can't get in because he's running, he can't get in that debate. He's running third, and he's trying to get, see, that debate's going to be held in television, prime time. So a few of the things that Jerry is doing, trying to get exposure, I understand he's giving up Linda Ronstadt. And, yeah, he's going to date Miss Piggy. Going to be a judge on the Gong Show, and I understand he's going to skateboard around 3 Mile Island holding his breath. You know, little things like that will get on the news. Now, here's an interesting item. Did you see this? Senator Ted Kennedy picked a gentleman to help his campaign, and the gentleman was one of the oil industry's big defenders. Kennedy's been kind of harsh on the oil companies, and he picked a man who had his advertising campaign by the name of Herbert Schmertz. Now, with a name like Herbert Schmertz, you better be good. No, but Schmertz, if you remember those full-page ads that Mobile had a few weeks ago in the newspapers, explaining that all of the money that they seem to have made, they didn't really make. Herbert Schmertz was in charge of those ads, and what he did, he told this fantastic tale about how Mobile had plowed all of this money back into exploration to find oil for us and for the good of the nation. Now, I'll tell you how good an advertising man Herbert Schmertz is. He told that entire Mobile story without once having to use "Once Upon a Time." Now, that's an advertising. Anyway, tonight, we have Tony Randall, Buddy Rich, Kelly Monteith, and Tommy Thompson, the author of a fabulous book called Serpentine, who also did Blood and Money, if you remember that book. Did you hear what I said, Tony? Buddy? Who else? Kelly?
Kelly's here.
And all of you. And we'll be back. We'll be right back.
Here's what people are saying about Campbell's chunky beef soup, now that it's even chunkier. Here's what they say about all those chunkier chunks of beef. And all those chunkier chunks of potatoes and vegetables. Now that chunky beef is so much chunkier, people say they're even more tempted to eat it with a fork. We say, just use a bigger spoon.
They go forward. They go backward. They go back and forth in a hammering action. They go through wood, steel, concrete, granite. No matter what it is, a Black & Decker drill can put a hole in it. In fact, anything a drill can do, Black & Decker makes a drill that can do it. When America has a job to do, it reaches for Black & Decker.
Tommy Newsom and our all-ultra suede orchestra. Ultra suede's very nice, you know.
Certainly is.
That's not just...
Better than regular suede, isn't it? Ultra suede on second thought is not really suede.
That's right. But it's ultra suede. It's right, and they're on the dangerous list, ultras. That's why they...
True. We all know that.
They got to quit shooting those ultras and so forth. What are you doing for Thanksgiving? We're doing the show, of course, tomorrow.
I was going to ask you if you got your turkey yet.
Sure.
Do you, truthfully, do you help Mrs. Carson prepare the turkey?
Just like you helped Mrs. Severinsen prepare the turkey.
No, there is no Mrs. Severinsen.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
There used to be.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
The fact that I never helped her stuff her bird was one of our big problems.
I thought that was your problem. Well, no, you know, I forgot all about that. We've been together so long that I forget sometimes where we are.
Which wife are we on?
On various Thanksgivings. No, we're gonna...
In fact, that was one of the things we really thought about.
What? Did you...
I wanted an oyster stuffing in the turkey, and she wanted bread stuffing, and she got bread stuffing and a lot of money.
You mean you used to argue about what you're going to stuff the turkey with?
Yes.
And that was one of the problems.
She's still stuffing the turkey, but not with money.
Well, it's nice to know you have no bitterness.
I always used to say, you know, I mean, you can have turkey and all that. I don't like turkey that much.
Yeah.
I said, I love lasagna. She calls up every year at Thanksgiving, says, are you having your lasagna?
They don't forget, do they?
No.
I'm sorry about that. Well, we're having a...
You didn't answer the question.
What, are we having turkey?
Yes.
No, I don't help. I don't know about that stuff.
Be careful of those turkeys. They'll catch you.
I couldn't go out. You know, in the Midwest, it's seriously enough, and when you grow up out there, I could never go out. And some of the kids would have to get a pet turkey. And at the end of the year, you get attached, and you can't go out.
A pet turkey?
A pet. A pet, you know, they're not...
I mean, you know...
They're not very nice birds to begin with. Turkeys are not your...
They're terrible-looking things.
They're terrible-looking, they're noisy as hell, and they're mean birds.
They are?
But kids would get them, you know. Now you got to go out there and kill them. I couldn't do that.
They deserve it.
What?
They deserve it. Anything that ugly should die. You know that. As you can see, I'm not too crazy about Thanksgiving.
You don't go out. No, you really aren't, are you? You're not going to celebrate.
I suppose you'll be home with the family having turkey. Just a typical American family.
That's right. You'll be out there writing the checks. Sending them for the stuffing, huh?
You will have written yours the day before.
That's right. Mine's already in the mails.
And Ed went to deliver his personally.
But what does he know? Tie askew and nose aglow. Okay. Well, I don't know about you. We're having an awful lot of fun up here, folks. Now,
I'm just going to the Zodi's Day Parade. Get it over. Watch Big Bertha come by.
Look, if you really feel badly now, I feel so terrible that you're going to be alone. Would you like...
I didn't say I was going to be alone.
You just said you ain't going to eat no turkey, right?
That's right.
You can come over. Would you like to come to the house and?
This is the first time you've ever asked me.
Well, you made me feel so guilty.
I mean, when you ask an employee in front of 15 million people, do you want to come to the house for Thanksgiving dinner? What am I going to say? No. You know what I say? I say, yes, Mr. Carson, I love it.
Can you come?
No.
We really don't have room anyway, to tell you the truth.
I will be in the neighborhood.
I just did it because you made me feel so guilty.
That's good. I'm glad. Tomorrow, when you're eating that turkey, I know you aren't that crazy about turkey.
Not
anyway.
really. Not really. I don't know. You just fell
Go
with the
ahead
habit
and
of
eat it and be happy. Look at all the family around you. It's a great occasion in American
It
history.
really is.
Of course it is.
This is from, I can't find, who's
Right
this?
down there.
At the bottom.
You usually find that's where people sign a letter.
All right.
See,
You're right.
after sincerely yours. You can always tell right away.
Can you give me whatever you're taking tonight?
I'll tell you what.
You want to give me a hit on that, whatever it is?
I can't give you any, but I'll sell you some.
Good. I'll take about a lid and a half. I'll be right back. We're coming back.
Mr. Green,
Yeah.
you need any help?
Mm-mm.
Want my Coke?
No.
Really, you can have it.
Okay. Thanks.
That's the way it should be. I like to see
See you around.
the whole world smiling with me. Coca-Cola
Hey, kid.
has right. Have a Coke and a
Wow, thanks, Mean Joe.
At West Bend, we knew you were interested in Oriental wok cooking, but you wanted it made easy. So we built you the West Bend Electric Wok. Just dial the temperature, and the bowl shape concentrates heat, so you can stir fry, make deep fry tempura, simmer, stew, right at the table. Great fun, great meals, Oriental or American. The West Bend Electric Wok, the one you helped design, from West Bend, where craftsmen still care.
Okay, welcome back to Giggle Time. Let's see if we can get a little composure around here. My first guest you all know. Well, maybe you don't. Most of you probably do. He's a fine actor. He's going to open in a movie, not on a movie. He opens in a movie, which is going to open on Christmas Day around the country, called The Scavenger Hunt. And he will now honor us with a song from his album called... just won't have to get the album.
Where's the honor in that?
Well, we're going to find out. We'll find out if it's an honor. It's called The Power Is You, featuring Tony Randall and Lynn Redgrave. Remember, we talked about this last time. And this is this the one for children? Middle-aged. That's no help when you say middle-aged. What is that? But would you welcome, he's going to sing this for you, called The Power Is You. The album is called that. Would you welcome Tony Randall?
Give it rest and give it healthy food. Give your body its due. Give it air and give it exercise. Give your body its due. Give it what it wants and needs to have so that it can see you through. For if you take care of your body will take care of you. Keep it trim and keep it always fit. Keep your body in shape. Keep it strong and keep it in the pink. Keep your body in shape. Keep it moving keep it in a healthy state. 'Cause if you take care of your body's gonna turn out great. Overeat and overdrink and smoke, and your body will show. Overact and overwork or play, and your body will know. Overdoing, good or bad, is just not the proper thing to do. But if you take care of your body will take care of you. Yes, your body will take care of you.
On the latest album, the bullet on the side. Your body will take care of you. If you take care of your body.
Yes, it's catchy, and
It is
everyone
catchy.
loves it. And they ask me to sing it wherever I go.
Who was the last person that asked you to sing it? Besides us here.
Bert Sperm.
Which one?
Bert. Said sing it.
How is this doing now? We talked about this the last time you were on the air.
Yes.
Is it doing well?
We've sold 25 copies already. And it seems to be catching on. If it keeps on like this, we'll make out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
No, I believe it's doing rather well. Lynn Redgrave and I are on it, and it's for children, essentially for children and their parents. Teaching little lessons about cleanliness and so forth.
that is nice.
Yeah.
Remember taking hygiene in school? That's what they call it. I was going through grade school.
Yes.
You took hygiene.
Yes.
About cleanliness and keeping your fingernails clean and all that, but they never really got to the nitty-gritty.
Yes, we did. We did.
Did you really?
In school, yes.
You had sex education in school when you were? We talked about frogs a lot, but we never got to humans.
It was very embarrassing. And they showed us a film, I remember, in high school on conception.
Really?
And on birth. But it was all a pig. They showed the birth of a pig, and they indicated conception.
I see.
With dots.
Drawing
Dots going from one member
of the to the other.
To the other, yeah. While we all looked around the class.
That's strange.
Yeah.
And they're still uptight about that in this country, about teaching sex education in schools. A lot of parents are still against it.
Things have changed. When I was a kid in school, I was little, for one thing. I was a year or two younger than everybody else in class.
Why's that?
Well, they used to skip you. I don't know if they do anymore, but I skipped 2 or 3 times in the first 2 grades.
Because you were bright, you mean? Or?
Yeah, they'd skip the bright kids.
Oh.
But they kept skipping you until you were with a group that was too fast for you. And so then you lagged behind the rest of your school career.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was the smallest always because I was young, and I was very shy about this sex business. And afraid to ask for a date.
Really?
Yeah. But remember, I don't know if things have changed, so it was... I remember a girl at a party asked me if I'd like to go out and sit in the car.
Right.
I was terrified. I didn't know what she meant, what she thought, what she had in mind.
Did you go out?
No. I'm kicking myself to this day thinking about it. But I couldn't imagine that she actually said such a thing to me. I had suggested, this is on the level, I had suggested that we play Spin the Bottle. This was in high school.
Bottle. Yes,
yeah,
I
I was a
remember.
naive kid. And she said, why don't we just go out and sit in the car?
And you wouldn't go out?
No, I was afraid, and also I didn't know what I would talk to her about out there without all the music and everything.
Right.
But I do remember also getting ready for dates. Maybe you remember this. Getting on my bike, trembling with fear, hands wet and shaking, and going to the drugstore with hope in my soul. And standing there and reading a magazine till everybody was gone. And going up to waiting at the counter. And then a woman comes out.
Hi.
Say, do you have any male druggists here? And finally, a man comes out.
You were that shy.
Yeah, and you make a purchase, which you put in your wallet. And you never use it, ever.
You're doing my act I do in Vegas.
Are you serious?
Go ahead.
But you use the wallet a lot because it shows all through college.
Oh, yes.
But things have changed. So have you seen the displays they have in drugstores now? There are these little packages with pictures of smiling young kids on them. Yeah. In bright colors, and they have names like "A votre santé."
To your health?
To your health, you know, or cheers. They have chic names. It's all
chic names. Now that was a name when we had one.
Chic.
But not spelled like chic.
I know what it means.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. If you had a real white part in your hair, you know, with your hair like that.
Yeah.
That was chicy.
That was right.
Yeah. Boy, he's a chicy guy.
Are you still shy about things like that?
No. No, I've still got my wallet.
Yes, I know. Yeah. We'll be right back.
Put your powers of logic and deduction to the ultimate test. Black box.
In at 12.
There's nothing there.
Your opponent designs a hidden pattern for the black box.
It's a hit.
One could be here.
And to find it, you have to see with your mind, not your eyes.
It deflected to here, so the last one must be hidden here.
Very logical, but very wrong.
Parker Brothers' Black Box, the ultimate game of hide and seek.
Doc, give a listen to McDonald's All-American High School Band.
Ed, those cats are terrific.
Well, for the 13th year, McDonald's has selected the best from thousands of outstanding musicians nominated by their high school band director. They are tops. Just listen to them.
You know, I could use a couple of those kids right here in our band.
Well, you can see McDonald's All-American Band tomorrow in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade right here on NBC.
I'm going to be watching. You know, those kids are really great, aren't they?
We're talking with Tony Randall. We have Buddy Rich, Kelly Monteith, Tommy Thompson talking about a new book. You read a lot, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Constantly. You haven't read Serpentine yet?
No, I haven't.
Good book. You'll enjoy it.
Believe it or not, I'm reading a book by Sir Anthony Blunt.
Sir Anthony Blunt?
Yes, he's not Sir Anthony anymore, is he? No. You don't know what I'm talking about?
The thing about in England.
It just happened I was reading a book by him.
Yes, for the scandal.
Yeah, well,
the spy. Yes.
The book is about Italian art.
One nice thing about English scandals, they're always really scandalous. You ever notice?
They're really good.
Yeah, juicy.
They know how to do it. We don't know a thing about it.
We don't know how to get a real good scandal.
We don't have the filth in our blood somehow.
Let's talk about your movie. Would you like
yes. It's nice of you to bring it up.
Well, of course. It's called The Scavenger
surely
Hunt.
the sole reason I came here.
I know that.
Aside from plugging my record.
I know that.
And keeping my face before the public.
That's right.
Between things. You got to keep moving in this business. You got to let the public know who you are.
Where you going?
Yes, where you're going, what you're going to do, what you had for dinner, what you're having tomorrow.
Now, you have a movie called The Scavenger Hunt.
Scavenger Hunt. Now, that's the big thing.
Is it any good?
I don't know.
Well, you're honest about it.
I literally do not know because I have not seen 1 foot of it.
Yeah.
And you never know. You begin with
that's
this...
the thing about making a motion picture. You can finish the picture, you can wait 6 months for it to come out, and
it's terrible.
The actor sometimes has no idea whether it's going to be any good.
Well, you begin with a script.
I know
and
that. Of course you begin with, we all know that.
You don't always begin with a script.
Oh, you don't?
No, but in this, no, they didn't used to. They used to wing them.
Oh, I know. You go out and you make up dialogue, or they'd write it right on the set.
That's
right.
right.
They'd hand the actor the pages, and they'd go over and look at it, and they'd do it, right?
They used to do it that way.
So I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah. But you begin with a script. Then you shoot it. The script may be very good. It may be even great. And you can still make a rotten movie.
True.
If anybody goofs up, and there's so many departments all along the way, if the cameraman isn't right or anything. Mm-hmm. So I think this is good. We began with a good script.
Is it a comedy? Is it a...
Yeah, it's really funny.
Well, that would make it a comedy.
Yeah. It has a lot of funny stuff in it, but it's about a scavenger hunt. And you have to get things in order to win the inheritance of $20 or $50 million or something like that. And everybody's killing everybody else out of pure greed to get these things. And I'm the only good guy in the picture because I'm not doing it for greed. I'm doing it for my starving children. Yeah. But one of the things we had to get is an ostrich.
On the scavenger hunt?
Yeah. Well, talk about turkeys. There is nothing in this world
meaner
and uglier and smellier and rottener in spirit and disposition
than an
ostrich. They weigh 300 pounds. And to get them in position, it takes 4 or 5 men holding them, and then they begin to flap those big wings, and they can kill you.
And they kick.
And these feet are enormous, with huge, they have 3 toes. Each one has a huge nail, a claw coming out of it, and they go after you like that. And then they strike like a snake with that long nail.
You do a very nice ostrich.
Yeah, they do that, and if you get near them, that head comes at you, and they go for you, and they make a terrible noise. That mouth opens, and you can... It's really disgusting.
Don't care for them, huh?
No, and that's not the worst thing they do.
I don't want to hear the rest of it. I can...
They do one thing all the time, more than a horse or cow does. Yeah. And we had 4 little kids, really great kids who played my children. And these kids had I play Motley. My name is Motley. And these kids were so bright, and they made up anything good was Motley power.
Right.
But anything they didn't like, they called OS.
Ostrich.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There we go. Okay, I think we got that all right. You crossword puzzle fans, I'm sure, will be able to figure that out. But 2-letter word. Ostrich is the first one.
Yeah, the kids made that up. Little kids, 6 years old, made that up.
Hit nowadays. Let's see the film clip.
Yeah, well, this is a scene. Yeah, I haven't seen any of this, but this is a scene where I have to get a medicine ball. That's one of the items on my list.
Okay.
Yeah.
Watch this little excerpt from the Scavenger Hunt.
Okay, Chief. Now, we all know what we're looking for, right? Right. Now, I'm going in this gym and try to find a medicine ball. We'll meet back here at the car in 10 minutes. Let's go.
Yeah. Come on, Jason.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to the gym.
Thank you. My name is Motley.
I'm Lars. I'm the instructor here.
Yes, healthy.
Thank you.
I tell you, I have a little problem.
Well, that's what we're here for. We take care of problems. Yes, and you have a problem. How did you get that? We take care of your back, we straighten you out all the way, we make you come out of this gymnasium as a
Tell you what I need.
young man.
It's a medicine ball.
No medicine. We don't deal with medicine here. We deal with absolute just nutrition, food supplements, no drugs.
No, I don't believe in drugs.
With America.
Right.
Drugs will make a real man out of you.
I can't stop!
But no pain, no gain.
Make it stop! I can't!
Yeah, the boy.
Oh.
How you feel?
All I want is a medicine ball.
A medicine ball?
Yeah.
Hey, you're getting the spirit. I guess I underestimated you madly. Hey. Here.
Oh, that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
We had the gym instructor, of course, was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
And he was
on
good.
the show the other night. He's got a good sense of fun about himself.
He had lived all those lines.
Yeah. No, he's a bright guy.
Well, we stood on the set saying, what are we going to do with this? It doesn't seem to work. And he fixed it. He said, I know what to do. Don't worry. I'll fix it.
Just start talking to
He
him.
began to talk, and he did the whole thing.
We just went along with him.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Looks very funny. Called the Scavenger Hunt.
Yeah, it's good.
I'll tell you a story later about a scavenger hunt that was held some years ago. Maybe I got time to tell it quickly. About ex-wives. We held it in New York, and a couple of people are no longer with us, Bennett Cerf and Rosalind Russell. People had to go out, and one of the things was a nude doll. Now, most people went to the toy store.
You're not allowed to buy anything.
No, well, they went and picked it up, and, you know, and we're going to get a little nude dolly, and they take the clothes off of it, or they go to a second-hand store. So where I was living in New York at the time, and when it came part for one of the teams, they called out a nude doll. And from the second floor walks this person.
A regular doll.
A beautiful young lady. And Truman Capote was keeping score. And nobody would finally admit what team did this. This young lady descended in front of this entire group wearing zip, but with great style. Walked down, turned around, walked back up the stairs, and nobody took a beat. These people said, and Truman Capote said, "One nude doll?" And that was it, and went right back. And to this day, nobody will admit who did it. We'll be right back.
Reach out and touch someone.
Hi, Grandma. We're watching you kissing everybody.
Oh, you're looking at those ancient movies again.
Uh-huh.
So, when are you coming out to visit your movie star grandma?
Daddy, is Grandma a movie star?
Reach out, call up and show you care.
Grandma sends love and...
Reach out.
Reach out and touch someone far away. Give them a call.
I get awful sinus, headache, congestion. My husband says take aspirin. My neighbor says a nasal spray. My mother says antihistamine. But my boss says extra strength Sinutab does it all.
The most non-aspirin sinus pain reliever per tablet without a prescription. 54% more per tablet than standard sinus remedies. Helps relieve pressure and congestion, too.
My boss was right. That's why she's the boss.
Extra strength Sinutab puts you where the relief is. From the makers of Sinutab.
No joke?
No. Aren't you going to congratulate me?
Now, what do you want me to congratulate you about?
For intimidating you?
Intimidating me?
Yes. You haven't dared smoke while I was out here? I noticed that.
Well, you're a guest. You're a guest.
First time ever.
You're a guest.
All right.
Buddy Rich, my next guest, will be appearing at Shea Theater in Buffalo on November the 27th and at the grand finale in New York on December the 11th through the 16th. Would you welcome Mr. Humble, Buddy Rich.
Well, how are you? Terrific. Thank you.
You're looking good.
This guy was out tonight.
I had my Buddy Rich injection.
You really got it, man.
Doctor,
I think I'll buy a lid from you, man.
Doctor, he was rolling tonight, wasn't he? Where you been? Traveling all over the world?
Yeah, we've
country?
been all over the place, as usual, doing one-nighters. And
You're one of the few bands outside of Basie, I guess, that still travel. Woody Herman?
Woody, we just closed at the Westbury Theater in Long Island. We were there with Maynard Ferguson's band.
Right.
We had 2 bands on the stage.
But there aren't many anymore, are
no,
there?
there's Woody, Maynard, Basie, our band, Lawrence Welk, and a few others.
That's true, they do go.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think, and it probably won't happen, that those days are coming back again, and...
I don't want them to come back. I like the new things that are going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, much better, much more exciting. The audiences are better. The musicians are better, I think, and the attitude.
Where do you find all these young musicians? I know guys you have in your band, the average age is about 21, 20...
No, about 23, 24,
that
something
age,
like that. And most of the guys have been with other bands. They come out of Berkeley School of Music in Boston, Texas, all around.
Yeah.
You know, bars.
You're a tough taskmaster.
No,
When you're
no, I'm very easy. just work, show me some blood, faint.
I remember one night, now, you've mellowed a little bit. We both mellowed. You know, as you get a little older, you're supposed to mellow, right?
No.
I saw you some years ago. Now, do you remember this one? You called out something, like 28, whatever the book was.
Yeah.
And one of the guys in the band said, he didn't particularly fond of playing 28 again. I guess he'd had it, you know.
Did I fire him?
You fired him right there as he was sitting there.
Right. He probably
and
didn't
hired
read
him
it.
back after the next set.
And he fired me.
No, but he said, I don't want to play that. And you said, you're fired. I said, you're right in the middle of the set.
Yeah.
And then later on you said.
Well, you can't have that kind of mutiny in the band, you know. I mean, there's only one leader.
That's right.
Right?
See, Tommy, how he's got him in his power right there. Is that so?
Ultra smooth.
Did you hang out mainly with, we've known each other for a long time, 20-some years, but you hang out mainly with musicians?
No, not really. I don't do much hanging out, as a matter of fact.
You're not the most social...
When the job is over, you work very hard. You've traveled 400 miles in that day and then played a couple of hours a night. You don't feel like hanging out too much.
Yeah. What steams you? What really steams you when you're on the road?
Lately, John, the road is really horrendous. The attitude of most of the people in hotels, airlines, are just, forget about it. You're paying top dollar.
Right.
And you get served with, you order a steak, and you get served on a plastic plate, and you got the knife, and it cuts right through the plate. Doesn't cut through the steak.
Right.
Cuts right through the plastic plate, you know. Little packets of salt and pepper, and it gets all over you. And they think they're doing the right thing. It's, you know, with me, it's really tough. I would get hysterical. Don't send up a packet of ketchup. Send the bottle up, you know.
Oh, you mean those little things that are in
and
service?
they squirt all over you, and you look like you just cut yourself in half. It's really...
I want to find...
Right.
Now, I want to find the man who thought of wrapping saltines in plastic. Did you ever try to open
get it
them?
out?
There's no way.
No way.
Without taking and just pounding the whole package and pouring it out just as dust.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's really bad. And of course, the 55-mile speed limit doesn't help any when you have 400 miles to go, and everybody's doing 70 anyhow. You know, the whole thing is insane.
Yeah, the other day, without trying to make a big social point here, but I was driving in on the Ventura Freeway. So I figured I just want to find out what's going on. And I got in the left-hand lane. If you're going to get in the left-hand lane, folks, and drive 55, you are going to be screamed at, things that will throw things from their car at you if you don't get over.
It's really nuts.
So finally I was up to 65, which was the speed limit a few years ago, and people were still going by in the left-hand lane. And finally I got the hell over the right.
When we played Disneyland a few months ago, we were doing 70 on the highway, you know, cops passing by waving.
Yeah.
Over. Wave like
over?
this, you know, move over. But I find that really tough to take. The bus has to go at 55.
Yeah.
We have to drive at 55, and so a normal 7-hour trip takes you about 9 hours, you know, and you get to the job and everybody's like busted out.
Yeah.
Everybody sounds like Doc.
Only tonight.
Yeah, what is it, Doc?
What is what?
Besides the stuffing of the turkey, what are you doing?
He's just reminiscing.
I'm going to have smoked turkey tomorrow.
I'll come over and smoke it with you.
Yeah.
I just can't figure out how to keep it lit.
Smoke one for me.
You light both ends. That's how you do it, man. Smoke it all over.
You get on one end, I'll get on the other.
Well, it's going to be a happy Thanksgiving
It's going to be a
tomorrow.
good Thanksgiving.
Yes,
I
at our
agree with
home.
that.
We'll take a break. We're coming back. You going to play something for us tonight? You feel in the mood?
I'll play some drums for you.
Really?
Really? I'll do that.
Guess who brings home the bacon in this family?
Nobody. We bring home the sizzling.
Don't bring home the bacon.
Think lean.
Bring home the sizzling.
Sizzling real meat breakfast strips from Swift. 50% leaner than bacon. You get more real meat.
Nothing can beat the great lean taste of Sizzling. Think lean.
Think delicious.
So don't bring home the bacon.
Think lean.
Bring home the sizzling.
You can feel us coming now, a fresh look on the scene, with a whole new style of living, light and crisp and clean. That's why now we say the age of 7-Up is here, because we love that crisp, refreshing taste, so light and crystal clear. Moving up, looking up, America is turning 7-Up, reaching up, feeling up. America is turning 7-Up.
I think Eddie Shaughnessy has lent Buddy his drums and the guys for second. Whatever. Everyone.
Ba-dum-ba-dum-ba-dum-ba. And we'll be back in a moment with Kelly Monteith, Tommy Thompson. After this message.
Presto Popcorn Now Continuous Hot Air Popper. Non-stop popping as much or as little as you want. Self-buttering, too, while it pops. Presto Popcorn Now. A handy little griddle that makes breakfast, lunch, and even dinner for two is a great idea. Presto makes it even better with easy clean surface and built-in grease tray. Little griddle from Presto. Innovation to make it first, quality that makes it last and last and last.
For centuries, women have impatiently waited for the men they loved to return from the sea. At Christmas time, there's no better way to express that love than a gift of Old Spice. Old Spice, fresh, clean, masculine, sensual. A wonderful gift for a man, a wonderful way to please a woman. This Christmas, give Old Spice to someone you love.
The place we were just talking about, are you going to, or did you just finish that?
No, we just played a place in Albany called JB's, and it's just a dynamite place. Other bands who may be going to Albany, be sure you play that club.
Is it cold up there now?
No, as a matter of fact, New York weather is beautiful. It was 68 when I left there yesterday.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
It was really great.
Here's a good friend of ours. He's been on the show many times. Very funny guy, and he's going to be appearing in Carbondale, Illinois, December the 10th. Not November the 10th, because that was some time ago. And he opens at the Aladdin Hotel in Las Vegas, December the 11th through the 19th. Would you welcome Kelly Monteith?
Thank you. Carbondale, huh? We had some people. I didn't think we'd have anybody from Carbondale. I don't know where I'll be there, but I'm going to be in Carbondale. Nice to have you all here on Thanksgiving, big day tomorrow, huh? It's when all the families and mom and pop and the kids sit down and pig out. It's also the one holiday college kids don't mind coming home stoned for. See, they're not paranoid because they know none of the relatives are going to notice, you know. Because the relatives are there going, look at Wally eat. He's like a man possessed. It's his third turkey. Christmas coming up, right around the corner, Christmas is. Actually, you know, that's when television really comes in handy because it parades all this merchandise in front of you. And it's really kind of nice. It gives you a chance to sit back at your house. I do that. I kind of assess the products that I'm going to buy. Like this one watch commercial that they always have on. You know, the watch that keeps on ticking. You know, the ones where they have all the testimonials from all the people. While I was out plowing my field one day, I looked down in the furrow and I found my Timex watch I lost 1.5 years ago, and it was still ticking. I was working in my garden, and I hit something metal with a trowel, and I picked it up, and it was a Timex watch, and it was still ticking. I was out fishing one afternoon. I saw something shiny in the stream, and I picked it up, and it was a Timex watch, and it was still ticking. Which leads me to believe that they make great watches, but real crappy watch bands. And what the hell's the use of having a good watch if the sucker keeps falling off, you know? Hey, check out my watch. My watch! What the hell? I had it this morning when I plowed. What happened? I like to spend holidays at home, though. See, it's a treat for me to spend holidays with my family, because for years I used to travel by myself and spend a lot of time alone, boy, on Christmas and Thanksgiving, which you get used to, you know. I guess I'd be classified as a loner. It's not always a word I like to be used about myself, though, a loner. I always fit the description of those rapists they're always looking for, you know? Every time I read about one guy in the loose, he's white, late 20s, early 30s, light brown hair, and a loner. And I'm always just close enough to that artist's conception, you know? Oh, that's me. Boy, I'm afraid some civic-minded nut will be out there. There he is. What'd you shoot him for? He was alone, that guy. And then they'd print my middle name, see, because they always do that with criminals. You ever notice that? Some about 3 names that denotes trouble to me. And I don't think I'm too far off base, because I look at all those infamous people we know by 3 names. Guys like James Earl Ray, Lee Harvey Oswald, Jack the Ripper. Weird, isn't it? It's always 3 names. But on the other hand, it seems like the more contribution you make to society, the less names you need to be known by, see? Because I look at all those heavyweight people we know by one name, you know, guys like Galileo and Shakespeare and Einstein, Edison, Roosevelt, Churchill. One name. Hey, who shot Lincoln? John Wilkes Booth. What'd he look like? White, late 20s, early 30s, light brown hair, and a loner. But it's funny how we honor the heroes that we have. See, what we'll do, we'll name like a street or a building or a square after them. I never thought that was much of an honor, you know. Now, it might be at the time. You know, they say, we really like what you did. You're really a hero here, so we're going to name this little square after you, see? And it's a real nice square at the time. But after a while, years go by, and pretty soon the neighborhood starts to decay and go downhill, and the seedy element moves in, and shady characters are hanging around, and bums and winos, see? And the next thing you know, people don't even remember your name for what you did, you know? They just associate your name for some god-awful part of town. Terrible way to be remembered, you know? Hey, how do I get to Monteith Square? Monteith Square? Well, you go down there, but you a pimp? It's the only people that come out of there alive. Go down there about 10 to 15 blocks. You know you're getting close when you start hearing gunfire. That's why people don't want to be heroes today, I guess. Because I keep reading there's a scarcity of contemporary heroes, which is really important to have, you know. I remember in school they would always emphasize the heroes from the past. But the trouble with that was that you never really saw them as human beings. You know, they portray them almost as gods, so that when you found out something human about them, some human failing, it would just be devastating. You'd be crushed, you know? Because here's some guy that you idolize because he did this and designed that and built this and sculpted those and painted this and wrote that book and invented that. You think, my God, this guy was a genius. He was a god. He must have died of overwork. No, drank himself to death. What? Well, if the booze hadn't got him, the syphilis would have. He had syphilis, caught it in prison. He was in prison? You mean he did time? Oh, yeah, beat up a blind man real bad one day. And beat up a blind man? Well, it wouldn't have happened if the man would have just let go of the cup, but he just insisted. Cup? He was a thief? Well, he needed money to support his habits. Habit? He was a junkie? Well, now, wouldn't you be if you married your mother? God. He was my hero. Well, he might have been a hero to you, but he was a real ass to his neighbors. They tried to hang him night before he died. That's the way I felt when I found out Thomas Jefferson had slaves. I couldn't believe that. I thought, no, wait a second. Here's a man that sat down and wrote, all men are created equal. How could he possibly have slaves? I still can't understand that. People say, well, he freed him when he died, but hell, he died at 83. Slaves had to be pretty old. Mr. Jefferson just died and said, you're all free. Well, that's mighty kind of the master. I'm 65-year-old, I got no job, I got no money, and now I got no hot damn place to live. Of course, now, he wasn't the only one. George Washington also possessed slaves. And he also grew marijuana, which is real interesting. I don't know how many people know that. I read in the paper they found a voucher at Mount Vernon. And sure enough, he grew marijuana there, which is really a kick. Of course, it's a hemp plant, you know, and they use it to make rope. Bet me the slaves didn't know what it was for, you know. Well, Josh, we got a good-looking crop of hemp this year. Yes, so, Master George, that's gonna make some fine rope.
Hey, how come all you nuts are looking for work?
Same reason as you, wheat nuts.
Wheat nuts put you out of work, too?
Yep.
How come folks are so crazy about wheat nuts?
'Cause they're crunchy. And they taste different. They're delicious.
Who wouldn't be? Made with wheat.
And wheat nuts don't taste greasy.
Or oily.
Next. Could you leave those wheat nuts out here?
Wheat nuts, the new snack from Pillsbury. Even other nuts are nuts about wheat nuts.
Take your lashes as far as they can go with Maxi Lash 24-hour mascara.
Take it.
Not just long lashes. Not just long lashes that last.
Ooh, take
But
it.
long, smudge-proof lashes that last 24 hours long.
Come on and take it.
Take your lashes to the Maxi.
Take it to the max.
Maxi Lash 24-hour mascara. The high-performance mascara only from Max Factor.
We're just talking about television in England. You said you were over there and did some shows. I asked whether it was ITV, and which is the commercial channel. There's BBC One, BBC Two, right?
Right. I was on 2.
Yeah.
They have no money. That's the one with no money.
BBC, that's like...
That's the one that likes me.
What kind of a show did you do for him?
It was, well, it's kind of hard to describe. I play myself in it. It's based on a kind of a situation comedy structure. But I play Kelly Monteith, a comedian, and I have a wife in the series. And it gives me a chance to do monologues in the little room that I work in, like all my monologues, so I can talk to the audience that way. And I've got the televisions utilized to illustrate what I'm talking about or to expand on that way, and I got sketches. I've got a lot of freedom with the show.
Yeah.
So it moves a lot of different ways, and it worked real well. And the first one went on last Thursday, and I understand the reception was quite good.
Yeah.
And so I'm really interested to see what's going to
English
happen.
has a strange sense of humor. We think we're so closely parallel, and we're not very often. Sometimes their humor that they bring over here, some of it is very good, and some of it people just stare at.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't seem to travel too well sometimes.
No, I imagine some of the humor that we have would be the same thing, like ethnic humor, like a southern, maybe southern humor, or different parts of the country, because they'll have comedians from the north that I have absolutely no idea what they're saying.
Yeah.
They're talking, and I have no idea. I can't understand a word they're saying.
I like your routine on the early Americans, especially. It's always true in the paper when they pick one of these people up who's, I thought of it because Tommy Thompson's coming out about kind of a grisly case here. They always describe the fellow as a loner, or he kept to himself a lot. You ever notice that? Didn't have many visitors, but he helped me one day in with the groceries.
It's always those people that live next door to the guy they caught, you know. Like
That's right, and they never see anything at all. Then all of a sudden he does the city council in one day with an axe, just like this.
Right.
But
Snaps it.
He was kind of quiet.
So I'm walking downtown with an M16, and he looks ticked off.
Yeah. Something was bothering him. Something was bothering him.
Morning. What's the matter with him?
Yeah, it's getting a little strange out there nowadays, isn't it?
It sure is. But it is interesting about this historical figures, you know, to find out. I still can't figure that out. I try and judge a man by his time, you know, because I realize it does shape a person, you know, the time element that you're in. Right. You know, if you're thrust in the future or back in the past, you wouldn't feel comfortable.
Well, things are now coming out. I think it takes a lot of time sometimes. We now find that Franklin Roosevelt and was seeing Lucy Mercer for many years. You know, there was kind of a love affair, and that comes historically. But at the time, you don't think about it. We kind of tend to put our presidents up on a pedestal or something. We find out they're just human. And
I see that with my folks, how time shaped my folks, because they went through the Depression, see. So that left a definite mark on people, and they still don't throw anything away at the house. My mom said, "Don't throw those grapefruit rinds away. I'll make a casserole."
That's right.
And my dad, my God, he can't get used to restaurant prices. I'll say, "Dad, this is my treat. Order whatever you want." "Okay, I'll have a steak. That looks nice." "Oh, good God almighty. You could buy a house for that in 35. "Chicken, I'll have something cheap. Chicken, my butt, I'll have chicken. Some tomato soup and coffee or whatever."
They remember that.
And I still get that way. I think if I was a billionaire, I'd still have a glass that used to be a jelly jar someplace in my cabinet.
Yes, you steam the
I had it
labels
when I was
off.
single.
Steam the labels off, and you keep the jelly jars.
Girls couldn't figure it out. It's nice crystal. What is this?
That's Welch's 1920.
That's Smucker's.
You got it. We'll be right back. Stay where you are.
America, now you can turn down your hot water heaters to 120 degrees, save money, and still get clean dishes. KitchenAid introduces a new energy-saving dishwasher, the only dishwasher that heats its own hot water in every complete cycle. The new KitchenAid can save money on your total hot water bill, and at an energy-saving 120 degrees, no other dishwasher gets dishes as clean as KitchenAid. KitchenAid, because it's worth it, now more than ever.
Wouldn't it be nice if batteries had gauges so you'd know ahead when you'd need a replacement? There's something good as a gauge better. The Rayovac Long Life Long Storage Alkaline. Now you can keep spares and never do without. See, its energy elements are compacted under 10,000 pounds, so that even after 4 years of standing there, it has more than 85% of its energy. Who needs a gauge? With Rayovac Alkaline, you can buy with confidence, buy spares with confidence, and never run out of gas.
Thomas Thompson's with us tonight. He has a most impressive background as a journalist and a writer. He was an editor for Life magazine at one time, author of the bestseller Blood and Money, and his latest book is a fascinating book. It's called Serpentine. We'll talk about it because I finished it the other night. It is some kind of book. Would you welcome, please, Tommy Thompson? Well, Thomas, you have cost me a few late nights reading this book. It is one of those books. It's almost such a cliche to say you don't put it down, but Kelly was saying it was when you start to read Blood and Money, you get so engrossed in it, you want to stay and you want to see what's going to happen. At about 3:30 or 4 in the morning, you really can't function anymore.
It's been about 3 years up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, the same way.
Yeah. It is really an amazing book.
You can't improve on what happens in real life. I don't have to make them up because they're just out there waiting to be found.
Now, that's not the question. Now, Kelly just asked me, he says, is this a novel or is this fiction? Now, I was reading this, and my sister-in-law was reading it, and she says, is this a real story?
Did you both buy copies, by the way?
Oh, yes.
Retail?
No, we hustled. This was a guy on the street came up and threw it out of a 48 Pontiac, and we picked it up for $3, I think. But she says, is it fiction? And I said, yeah. I said, no, wait a minute. I says, no, this is I said, the names in here are real, but it's not a case that people were aware of in the papers, right? They're all familiar with the Charles Mansons, they're familiar with the Charles Starkweathers and the Hillside Strangler, but it is true.
Oh, well, I'm always offered by publishing companies the opportunity to write the Charles Mansons and the Hillside. 2 weeks ago, the Hillside Strangler copped a plea one morning, and the same afternoon his lawyer called my agent and said, would I like to write his memoirs? The answer is no, I don't want to do those front-page stories because they've been overdone. They've been slain by the media.
Right.
So I look in the back of the paper. You know, the filler is down at the bottom of the column. When, you know what a filler is? When they run out of space and either they run the world's biggest watermelon or the world's tallest man. And I saw this little item about this man in the Far East who had killed a bunch of tourists. And it turned me on. I don't know why, but it said, a little article which said in 2 paragraphs, a mesmerizing young man has been arrested in New Delhi with his female accomplice, a Canadian nurse, on charges of having killed a bunch of tourists. It climaxed the biggest manhunt in Asian history.
Right.
And so it raised a lot of questions in my head. Who was this guy? Who was his Canadian nurse friend?
Right.
Who were the tourists? Why did he kill tourists? And how did their lives collide?
That's the interesting part. In the way you write this, you start off and then you pick up somebody here, and you talk about coincidence and how they all happen to meet all throughout Asia. It's set in Asia, and it's Thailand and Vietnam and Hong Kong.
It's all over the world. It's out here in Los Angeles. I don't know why the story never caught on in this country, but I'm glad it didn't because it fulfills my #1 requirement, which is to give you a surprise. You know, they write 45,000 books a year in this country, and maybe 100 will get on the bestseller list. And the competition is pretty fierce. I was feeling pretty cocky, but now Henry Kissinger and Irma Bombeck have made their debuts, and I'm never going to knock off them and Dr. Pritikin and Dr. Scarsdale. And
when you read about this guy, is his name pronounced Sobraj?
Charles Sobraj.
Sobraj,
right,
S-O-B-J.
It's S-O-B-H-R-A-J.
Sobraj. Right. When you read about him, he is in prison now.
In New Delhi, right.
I'm not going to give. Well, you can't really give the book away. You really have to read the book because it's a fascinating, complex, kind of a Serpentine thing. Did they let you talk to him when you went
Well,
up
it's
there?
very interesting. After Blood and Money was successful, I was looking around for a subject to do my next one, and I saw this item, and I asked my editor at my publishing company, Doubleday, I said, can I go to New Delhi and check this out? And they said, sure. They would have let me dramatize the Fort Worth High School annual, my hometown.
Right.
And so I flew to New Delhi and got off the plane and got into a taxi, and I said to the driver, take me to the jail. And I went to the jail, and you drop a few rupees in a few outstretched hands, which is the Asian way.
Yeah, you bring that up constantly.
It's also the Washington, D.C. way.
Yeah, but no matter what country this takes place, whether it's in Hong Kong or Thailand or
It's a wonderful
Vietnam,
word, baksheesh.
Yeah, you say you drop a few rupees and almost anything you can get done over there.
I think that's a worldwide language.
Yeah.
But I was admitted to the prison and into a courtyard, and here in a very dusty Indian courtyard in the middle of a jail. You can't imagine the hell of an Indian jail, but try to. Here was 40 or 50 police carrying rifles and bayonets, and in the middle was this little man. And the waves parted, and I walked up to him, and he struggled to stand up because he was chained and arms and legs. But he was wearing a Pierre Cardin suit, and he had on a $2,000 wristwatch and tinted glasses. And there was a little sparkle in his smile, and I learned later it was not due to any good humor, because he's a wretched man, but he has at any given moment 70 or 80 carats of sapphires and rubies concealed in his mouth, even in jail. And when he needs a favor done, he would just pull out a little sapphire and hand it to a guard. But he said to me, hello, Mr. Thompson. And I said, hello. You got to understand, I went there anonymously. Nobody knew I was coming. I wasn't in any gossip column or anything. Right. And that shook me up right away that he knew my name. And then he said, I understand that Blood and Money was number 4 last week on the Times bestseller list, which it was. And then he said, how are your 2 kids? And I realized right away that I was up against a pro.
Yeah, as the book develops, this character is
Well, he simply knows everything about everybody with the slightest public posture.
Right.
And he terrified me, and he was very seductive, and he's a very devilish man. And that was the way he operated. So, you know, if you were traveling in the Far East, for example, or traveling anywhere in the world, one of the nice things about travel is to meet somebody, right? Who's interesting.
He would kind of all of a sudden be there. A group of French tourists would be over there, and all of a sudden they would meet this. His name at that time was Alan Gauthier.
Oh,
I believe.
he changed his name every hour.
It would be Alan Gauthier or Alan something this, and he would all of a sudden fall in with these tourists and tell them where the fine restaurants were, and all of a sudden he would speak the language away from home.
He spoke 8 or 10 languages?
Yeah, Vietnamese, and he spoke a little Spanish, English, French.
Whatever.
Would fall in with these tourists, and all of a sudden, later on, a couple of the tourists would be found out in the countryside, San's head.
Yes.
On fire.
Well, for quite a few
Yes.
years, Interpol called him a drug and rob man. I didn't know there was a category of crime called drug and rob, but there is. I guess it goes back to the bad Samaritan.
He would pour a little something in the drink or
give you
curry
a
on the chicken.
little something, and usually he just knocked you out and took your passport and your jewels and your money and moved on. But later on, his life became very complex, and a lot of forces began to stir within him, and he also had collected an entourage of people around him. It's not unlike, it's got a little Bonnie and Clyde, it's got a little Manson case, but it's a little more exotic and much more glamorous. And he had a lot of pressures, and then he began killing people, and killing people in very hideous ways.
Did you find that ambivalent feeling yourself that apparently all of these tourists found with him? You were attracted. At the same time, you knew there was something inherently underneath not right or a little bit evil, but the attraction overcomes that.
It's kind of like a car wreck, you know. You don't want to watch it, but you're compelled
you're drawn
to
to
look
it.
Right. People told me that over and over again. Some of the people who escaped from him.
Especially the women. He treated women shabbily because of his upbringing with his own mother, who was rejected by his own father, and he was shifted back and forth from country to country and so forth. They would alternately fall in love with him and despise him, but still the attraction...
And nobody got much out of him. None of the women got access to his most private areas. He was a great tease, I guess you might say. But,
one of the girls described him as a cross, but how are you going to cast this if they make a movie? Because this is very unusual casting, because you start when he was a young boy, a child.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of this, he's not much more than, what, 30?
35, thereabouts. It's impossible to cast. They just sold it for the films last week.
Because he has an Oriental cast, and yet at the same time not speaking languages, and somebody described him as a cross between...
Alain Delon and
Sabu.
Where's Turan Bay now that we need him, right?
Yeah, that's going to be a very difficult...
Fascinating thing about the book, though, the violence is there, but I get over the violence quick. It's the anticipation of terror. It's the feeling that something terrible is going to happen.
Well, that's much more...
much more so. When I get to that point, I want to assure people that I jump over fast and move on. But what really lured me to the story was fate. I've always been interested in why people are in the wrong place at the wrong time. I found a quotation on a temple, in a Hindu temple in India. It says simply, coincidence, if traced far enough back, becomes inevitable, which means there's no such thing as a random happening. That maybe the fact that I'm sitting here on this sofa tonight, the forces that brought me here started generations, if not lives past. It's a strange thing for me to understand, being a Protestant kid from Texas.
It does become a philosophical point of view, right?
Right,
I mean, like karma, is it meant to be...
But when you study all the lives of the victims, particularly, and as kids as diverse as a little girl from Los Angeles, a girl from upstate New York, a Dutch couple, and they wound their serpentine ways to the Far East on various missions. One girl wanted to be a Buddhist nun. Some kids were just on tourist business.
Right.
But it seemed like there was an inexorable end to their life script, like they couldn't avoid it, like somebody was waiting for them. The killer didn't know he was going to kill them, and they didn't know they were going to get killed, obviously, until their lives crossed. That fascinating
But you could
moment.
find that almost true with anything, as you say, at any point, if you hadn't have done something.
Oh, that most maddening word in the language, if.
If I hadn't have done this, or if I hadn't got sick that day, I would have been on that.
Absolutely.
So it only takes one or two things.
I kept thinking when I was wandering through the byways of the Far East, particularly in India, which is the most incredible place in the world. I wish I could go there as a tourist now that I know how to handle myself. But I kept thinking a little man, a little holy man, would step out of a cave somewhere and give me the secret of life.
Yes.
I didn't find out.
You mean life is not a fountain? We'll be right back. Stay with us. Anyway, it's a fascinating, fascinating book. I found it strange when they finally did catch up with him that from all of the things that he apparently committed all over Asia,
Yeah.
they only nailed him for, what, 8 years?
7
Something
years.
like that.
But he had been doing pretty good, knocking off one person or two persons at a time. But they finally caught him when he tried to knock off 60 French tourists in a whole swoop.
And then unfortunately, they all fell unconscious in the lobby.
Right, yeah.
Timing was off.
Yeah,
Tommy, thanks for being here.
Thank
Really
you, Johnny.
fascinating.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, buddy. Thank you, Tony. Tomorrow night, Tony Bennett, Arlene Galanka, George Wallace, and Bartine Zane. Good night. Thank you.